Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And this week, we've got all three of those. We will be discussing and reviewing Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi in both a spoiler-free and a spoiler-full way. We'll also have a debrief of everything that went down at Rebel Scum Con last weekend. So if you've got the post-Rebel Scum blues, not to worry, we're going to relive some of the fun. And for those of us that weren't there, we're going to live vicariously through those that were. We've also got some updates on some latest Star Wars news. And if we have time, we may, perhaps, possibly get to a question or two and ask the SWU. But I will say no promises this week. Nope. No problem.
I'm already here. You can just answer the questions.
Honest.
You can answer the questions with me. That's a cupcake. We got lots of questions with Guildster 10 and all our other friends.
Exactly. So it's always no promises, but it's especially no promises this week. But lots and lots to get into. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. You've heard both the voices already, but back from Rebel Scum Con, he's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld. It's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Well, how's it going, everybody? It's good to be back, and I actually weirdly didn't miss a week there. I'm used to traveling to far and wide places and missing several weeks, which I did more than once this year. Didn't do that this year because I was here last week. But
you missed the week before. You all missed the week before. I'm just going to point that out there.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot. Time means nothing to me anymore.
You're not getting away with. You're not saying, "Oh, I didn't take any time off." No, Ben. No.
I know. Shame me. I don't miss for 15 years. I'm on this show more than anybody else, and then I just start screwing up backwards and forwards. But no, this was obviously a lot of stuff's happened, and we'll get into it. We got a new series on top of everything else, so yeah, a lot to get into. Cannot wait to get into it.
Yes, we will get into all of the lots that Ben is alluding to, but also joining us this week, we couldn't talk about some Star Wars animation without him. We couldn't talk about it with him, and that's why he's not here. We couldn't talk about Star Wars animation without him. Is the host of the Ion Canon podcast and the man responsible for the truly most insane takes on the Star Wars Underworld social media accounts. It's our buddy Joel Davis.
I'm glad to be here, which is funny because this is not a canon thing. Hey, some of those takes were Ben's. I don't have all of them.
I did give you one. I was just they're gonna all be mad at Joel for this one, and no one's gonna suspect it was me the whole time.
Dun. But yeah. But no, I'm glad to be here. I wish I could have been here that day when everyone was gone, Dom, when you invited me. But unfortunately, I had to see a little movie called Spider-Man Brand New Day. But I would have been here. I would have kept the fort down with you. But no, I'm glad to be here. You know how much I love Star Wars animation and especially Star Wars anime as an anime guy. So I can't wait to talk about Ninth Jedi with you guys.
Yeah, like a manager in Major League Baseball going to my bullpen. I was like, I know what I need. I need my closer. To come in and do the show with me. And Joel's like, my arm's not working today. Skip, I gotta go see Spider-Man. So that's what we wound. That's why you wound up with, I think it was like over 100 minutes of me by myself, which I agree was too much, which is why that's not the show. Usually we've got everybody here. But there is like lots and lots to get to, and there is going to be lots and lots to get to in the next few weeks. We've gone from San Diego Comic-Con to Rebel Scum Con to D23 starting up tomorrow as we record this today, as most of you are listening to it. And even though D23 has not yet started, we're already getting some sneak peeks at things that will be happening there. We are anticipating a first look at Ahsoka Season 2, anticipating a first look at Star Wars Starfighter. Whether or not these things get released to the public, that we have no idea. But at the very least, the people at D23, or some of the people at D23, will get a look. And everybody at D23 will have the opportunity to visit the Lucasfilm booth, where they have a extensive display of costumes from Ahsoka Season 2. There are, it looks like, some Night Sisters. There's Ahsoka. There is Thrawn. And there is this one costume in the background of this first picture we've got up here that looks very interesting. It looks like a puffy winter jacket, the sort that Han Solo might wear on Hoth. Except, what's that on the belt? Is that the Skywalker legacy saber? Is this
interesting?
Skywalker's snow costume from Season 1 of the Clone Wars, the episode Trespass? Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, are we about to have flashbacks in Ahsoka Season 2 to the 2009 classic episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars? Is it Season 1? I want to say episode 18, but that might be wrong.
It's early. It's early.
Yeah. But this does very much look like this is an Anakin Skywalker winter costume that is on display at D23.
I have a theory. It's not flashbacks. It's there on Peridia. It's cold, and Anakin, the Force Ghost, just shows up in that jacket, and Ahsoka's like, "Anakin, why are you wearing that jacket? Aren't you supposed to be dead?" And Anakin's like, "I just wanted to change of outfit. It's cold. What? Force Ghost can't be cold, Snips?"
I mean, in Return of the Jedi, Force Ghost Obi-Wan sits down on a log. Like, he's like, I'm tired. I need to have a seat.
It's true.
I'm still an old man.
It's true.
Ben, jump in here. What do you think? What's going on here?
Well, I was looking up. You were giving me a second to actually look up some evidence, and here's a comparison for those who don't know, those who don't remember. Here's the Clone Wars.
That's that costume. That is that.
And
costume.
here's that. Just think
it's the same costume.
That. It's the same costume. We are talking live action Trespass, which is low key like a great episode of Season 1 of the Clone Wars. For the record, no joke. So I don't know what's going on here, but Filoni, what are you doing, man? What is this? What are we looking at? I don't know what's happening. This is not like, unless you like what you're saying, just like, oh, he's just gonna show up randomly as a Force Ghost. Maybe it's cold and he just needs to. Maybe he just needs a jacket, which is fine. Force Ghosts get cold too. Bring them inside.
Exactly.
So who knows? But
also,
this is
I like to point out something. Look behind the jacket. We're focused on the jacket. Look behind the jacket. That is the same concept art from the Celebration Tokyo Ahsoka Season 2 panel.
Mm-hmm.
I see Thrawn in his command center doing his Thrawn thing. I can't see what's behind the Anakin.
I'll tell you what I see. I see a Dothamiri witch with a bow. Back there. That is straight up. We're looking at all this red. There's some Dothamir shenanigans going on in this Ahsoka Season 2.
Get live action Trespass, live action Night Sisters, which I believe are both episodes. Matthew Hardy confirms at least one of these in the chat that Ahsoka does not appear in the Clone Wars.
No,
so
that's
Filoni's
an Ahsoka-less episode.
Ahsoka free episodes, and we're gonna see these things brought into the Ahsoka series. Now, Joel, I want to go back to something you said a moment ago about like Anakin just showing up and being in this winter coat. Something we have never seen in Star Wars really is Force Ghosts on the adventure, right? Force Ghosts show up for a moment. They are there to give you some wisdom at a time when you need it. We've never seen them just be like, hey, I'm going to come along for this too. And I'm not saying that's what this is. I'm not saying that's why Anakin is in a winter coat or anything like that. But I think that would be a really cool, like, evolution, continuation of the Force Ghost concept, to have, Ahsoka and Sabine are looking for Mortis, and who could join them on that adventure but Anakin? He could come along and be there. And yeah, maybe he can't be involved in the fighting, but he can be kind of a guide, a spiritual and literal guide for these characters as they traverse deeper and deeper into this other galaxy and get closer and closer to Mortis, we presume. I think that would be really interesting. And just to go back in Star Wars history, in George's original concepts for Return of the Jedi and some of those early drafts, the Force Ghosts of Obi-Wan and Yoda were going to be more actively involved in the final confrontation between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor, back before it was even set on a Death Star, back when it was still set in the Imperial city of Had Abaddon. There's a name you haven't heard in a while. Had Abaddon. So like that was an idea that was being toyed with. And, we know Filoni spent a lot of time with George. I think they spent a lot of time talking about Force Ghosts, if we just look at those Yoda episodes that wrap up season 6 of the Clone Wars. And Filoni is also like a student of Star Wars history. He really knows the Macquarie paintings. He really knows the Macquarie works. He might be very familiar with some of these unused concepts, the Star Wars, the untold stories, if you will. And perhaps he might want to pull those into future Star Wars stories or current Star Wars stories that he is telling, like Ahsoka.
Yeah, it's interesting. I believe, and I know you just read it, so maybe you can correct me, Dominic, but in Splinter of the Mind's Eye, doesn't Obi-Wan like literally possess Luke while he's fighting Vader to like I'll take over your body, Luke, so you can lightsaber duel him better?
I don't remember that part, but it has been about a year since I read it. So I struggle with retaining books after I read them. I really enjoy them as I'm reading them, and then I close them and I'm like, I have no idea what happened. I like loved that ride, but I couldn't tell you what happened. So
I'm like that too. So
possible.
That's possible. Like I remember that. And you have to keep in mind also, Peridia might be Mortis, might not be. I don't know. But I am going to kind of wonder, are life and death kind of like clashing? And it's like, maybe Anakin's a little bit more solid than Ghost in wherever he is right now. So that's another question. You might need that jacket. You might literally be cold.
Yeah, it might actually just be cold and needs to be there. Or, it could be just like a flashback. It could be something that we don't know a ton about. I'm just trying to really quickly pull up another image, because talking about this is making me think of something else we've seen before. So can one of you vamp for just a second here?
Yeah, I think it'd be hilarious that Anakin, of all the Force Ghosts, wants to be more involved in the adventure, because like I think that fits kind of with his character. Like, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Luke, they're kind of more traditional, like, we have to be real Force Ghosts. We have to just come in, give the advice, and let them do the thing. Where Anakin's like, well, I don't want to just sit here and do nothing. I want to kick some butt. I want to take some names. I want to be with Snips.
I mean, that's Anakin's MO though. All the Force Ghosts would get there. They would get to Jedi Heaven or wherever they're at. They're like, yes, we are going to sit here and we are going to just meditate and we're going to do it for eternity. And Anakin's like, screw that. That sounds boring. I'm gonna go do some stuff. I'm gonna go hang out with my former Padawan.
Especially since I love I kind of low-key do love the fact that even at the Force Ghost, I don't think Anakin's changed that much. He's just no longer evil. He's just like, okay, I'm not gonna do the selfish evil stuff, but I'm still kind of a jerk and kind of a hothead. Just for the good guys.
I know where you're going with this now. I see this art on the screen.
So I've just pulled up. This is an image that Dave Filoni posted after the Rebels finale aired, of a drawing he did of Ahsoka and Sabine. And Ahsoka's in her Ahsoka the White costume. She's got that big pole with the circle on the end. And they are climbing up some steps in some mountains. It looks very snowy, a very appropriate place where you would want a nice winter jacket. the sort that you might also want to wear in an episode like Trespass. So I wonder if
here's my actual prediction for what's going on here.
Okay.
I think Ahsoka and Sabine are in a bit of a cold spot. They are marching up. They're doing a Lord of the Rings thing because Filoni loves the Lord of the Rings. He loves to do the Lord of the Rings in a Star Wars. So they're on a big trek. They're on a big mission. They're on a fellowship to go find Mortis or whatever they're trying to do. I think the something will happen. There will be a flashback to maybe another moment during the Clone Wars where like Ahsoka and Anakin were like really cold once. and there'll be a trigger a flashback and we'll see something happening. Maybe something we haven't seen, because I don't recall any moment in Clone Wars where Ahsoka was on like a snow planet or anything like that, unless I'm just completely missing something. I can't remember. I know she wasn't there for Trespass, so maybe it's something. Maybe it would be cool to see a mission that we never saw before.
In season 4. In the standalone Mandalorian Lux Bonteri episode, she is on kind of a cold planet, and she has that really nice winter coat, and there's all of the not romantic tension with her and Lux, and they're
but Anakin's not there for
each
that.
other.
I don't know. Maybe there's another part where we see. I don't know. Maybe he shows up. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I think in season 1 they did a really good job of walking the line of hinting at that we were seeing battles that we had seen in the Clone Wars, right? It's Teth, it's Ryloth, it's the Siege of Mandalore, but without actually showing us like a remake of a scene from those shows. And I hope that's something that continues into season 2, that instead of like remaking a moment from the Clone Wars in live action, show us a moment from the Clone Wars that we haven't seen before in live action. Let's flash back to a mission that we never saw in the series of Anakin and Ahsoka on a winter planet dealing with a separatist threat. Have Obi-Wan there. Get Ewan in there as well.
I was going to say, Ewan McGregor has been on it with, I want to be in Clone Wars. I want to be in the Clone Wars armor. I want to do this. He's been preaching that gospel for years now. I think Filoni's going to indulge him. I think you're going to see the big 3 on screen in Ahsoka season 2 in a flashback or something.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Real quick, I do want to go back to what you guys were saying about Anakin and like the idea of Anakin as a Force ghost wanting to be more actively involved in the story. That feels so true to his character, and honestly feels pretty true to the Anakin that we saw in season 1 of Ahsoka. Right? Like he has some wisdom, he has some sense, he understands, his place in things, but his version of a lesson to Ahsoka, right? Like we were talking about it. Obi-Wan's lessons to Luke is, I'm going to sit down on this log and I'm going to tell you about the good man who was your father was destroyed. Like that's
certain point version. Of view. Luke, certain point of view. I didn't lie. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Exactly. And Luke Skywalker is a Force ghost in Rise of Skywalker. He catches the lightsabers as a Jedi's weapon, deserves more respect, and they have a little chat. Yoda in Last Jedi, he's a little bit more proactive with, causing the lightning to hit the tree and smacking Luke with his cane. But it's a lot of people standing around talking. That's never been Anakin's style. And I think Anakin joining them for this mission as like as I said, as some kind of guide character would be really, really cool. And there could even be a funny line about, Ahsoka being like, I see you've dressed for the occasion, even though you're dead. Do you not realize that you're dead? And the other part of this is I still think there's a story to be told with Anakin coming to terms with the portion of his life where he was Darth Vader, because I've hammered this moment before in that episode because I think it's really interesting. But there's this moment where it's during the Siege of Mandalore. It's before Anakin switches to being evil and attacking, and he's talking to her, and she's telling him all about, everybody had all these hopes for you, and there was this great potential in you, but then that potential, went bad. And Anakin realizes that she's talking about Darth Vader, and he goes, is that what this is about? And he gets really like defensive, and he's like Hayden's performance, he like tightens up like he's embarrassed, which yeah, of course. But I always want to grab him by the shoulders in that scene and go, of course this is about that. What on earth could it possibly be about except that? That is what defines you, man. Sorry. And I would like to see a story in which Anakin in death grapples with that and comes to terms with it and learns how to use it as an effective teaching thing, for lack of a better word, for Ahsoka, for Luke, for anybody else that may come to him in the future, needing assistance, needing to deal with the darkness within them, because we all have some amount of darkness within us. And who could possibly be a better teacher to help you with that than the guy who became Darth Vader, lived as Darth Vader for 2 decades, and then realized the error in his ways and came back to the light.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have read the Legacy Vader Kylo comics. You should. They're great. There is a whole arc. I'm going to spoil it because it's been out for a year. Sorry. Where, Kylo goes to Mustafar, he goes to Vader's vault, and he has like this mind moment, acid moment, where he duels Vader, and then he duels, apparently it's himself in the Vader costume, and then he duels Ben Solo, who gives like a creepy smile, and basically it's all a bunch of mind craziness, right? And then he falls down Vader's castle, and he's just falling. And then he obviously going to be okay. But you see the outline of a Force ghost, and it kind of looks like Anakin. And I think what I'm loving about both that and Ahsoka, what I love about Ahsoka is, first off, I think we as fans have for years pictured Anakin post-death, because he doesn't appear a lot in Legends, honestly, that much at the Force Ghost at all, as kind of like he has come to Jesus. He has realized the error of his way. He is now wise and perfect. What I love about Ahsoka is like, no, Anakin's still kind of that jerk. He's still kind of that jockey jerk who's kind of, but now he's just no longer evil, right? But he's still kind of a jerk. He's got kind of a lot of his flaws still. He's still kind of the person we know and love from the Clone Wars. But obviously, he's just now on the light side again. And I think, he still kind of hasn't figured it out completely, even though, because he's Anakin. He's kind of always been a little dense. And, what I love about both his lessons in Ahsoka and his lessons maybe in Legacy Vader, if you want to believe that's Anakin, is like, no, he doesn't do the, all right, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a nice talk. Like, no, you can no, I'm going to troll you. I'm going to mess with your head. I'm going to get my point across by just just completely messing with your mind and enjoying it because I'm a jerk that way. And I think that's what kind of makes Anakin as a Force Ghost very fascinating. He's not a nice Force Ghost. He's kind of a jerk, but he's trying to teach you a lesson in a very jerky way, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. So plenty more to look forward to this weekend at D23. Again, by the time you're hearing this, we may well have seen some previews for some upcoming Star Wars productions. We may even have learned something else, although I hasten anybody against going into these convention presentations expecting lots and lots of announcements. That's generally not how these things go. They tend to focus more on showcasing stuff that's already in production, that's already being made. And both Ahsoka and Starfighter are pretty far along, so there's real opportunities to debut looks at that for the people there, and hopefully for those of us at home as well. I know someone who is going to be at the presentation on Friday who has offered to FaceTime me during the entire thing so I can watch the presentations, watch the trailers. But I'm always torn, right? Because I know you want to do something special for the people in the room, the people who paid a ton of money to be there. I get that, but I am selfish, and when I'm not there, I want to see everything. And so I hope that everything gets released online, even though I'm expecting one of two to get released, whichever one comes first, which is probably Ahsoka.
As someone who just literally came from a convention, to me, you pay all the money to go there, to be there, to have the experience, to be there. To me, it's not about the announcements. I understand some people may feel differently, but I think for the most part, you can give people at home something, you can maybe save a little bit of exclusive for people in the room. But most of us like being in the room when like freaking Josh Tomorrow comes on the stage and he's
Josh
talking
Tomorrow.
up all. It's Josh Tomorrow, yes, that's his name now.
Josh Tomorrow, yeah.
and,
Josh today,
big-
tomorrow, and yesterday.
It's a
There you
big,
go.
big, beautiful tomorrow.
But you know, that's your reward for like being that's the experience. Not just like, oh, another Ahsoka season 2 trailer.
Yeah,
so,
that is true. I will say though, D23 in the last 2 times, you know, they make you pay twice. You know, you pay to get into the convention, and then you pay to get into the Honda Center, which is where the Anaheim Ducks play, which is down the street.
Crazy to me, which
To
just like
see
as
the
someone who's
panel.
never been to D23, I'm just like, what you have to pay to get to what?
Yeah, you got to pay to get into the big panels where they showcase these things.
Damn.
And so in that regard, like if it was just you paid your ticket to get in, and if you either got into the big room or you didn't, then I say, yeah, release everything, because it is, you know, the experience is part of it. When you're paying $250 or whatever for a 3-day pass to D23, and then on top of that, minimum $80 for a nosebleed seats that you know, at the Honda Center to see the previews and stuff. Yeah.
That's a certain point of view. That's a different point of view there that changes things, doesn't it?
Release the Ahsoka trailer online and keep the Starfighter trailer exclusive for the people in the room, or vice versa.
Right.
And leave it with that. But we've got a lot to get to. We will talk in depth about whatever we learn about at D23 next week. For now, though, very quickly, couple of reminders. As always, make sure you subscribe. That way you will hear us talk about D23 and everything that we learned there as soon as we begin discussing it. So subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. If you are listening on a platform that lets you leave a review or a rating, please do that. Comments are also super appreciated. And if you're listening live and you want to guarantee your question gets answered in Ask the SWU, you can super chat with us. And if you like supporting us and supporting what we do, you can become a channel member even if you aren't listening live. Between shows, keep the conversation going by joining the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. Ben and Joel are always doing fun things over there. And of course, follow us on social media at the SWU for live updates as they happen in Star Wars news and Star Wars takes. And of course, make sure you check out the other programming on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and the Tractor Beam. Lots of fun stuff going on there. All right, let us get into the latest Star Wars series. Before it becomes old news, we need to have a proper discussion about the Ninth Jedi. Now, understanding that Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi was released in a way that we are not used to with Star Wars TV. It was released all at once to be binged, and understanding that 8 half-hour episodes is not something that everybody has time to watch in a week, let alone 2 or more. So
I certainly didn't.
So what we will do here is we're going to do a little spoiler-free conversation. So if you're working your way through the series or you haven't started the series yet and you want to know what we think, we'll have a little spoiler-free conversation. Then we'll get into some spoiler stuff, and we will clearly let you know when that is starting and stopping. And if you are listening to or watching this after the fact, you can then check the description of the episode, and it will say, jump to this point. And that is where the non-spoilers conversation will take over. And that's when we'll get into Rebel Scum and some other bits of the news. So we will clearly make that distinction when we reach that point. So stay tuned. But let us begin with some overall spoiler-free thoughts on the Ninth Jedi. I gave some thoughts last week when Chris and I were talking about it. So Ben, let's throw it to you first. What did you think? Spoiler-free of Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi.
Yeah, so I will start off by saying that it is important to make the distinction about spoilers, because there was like legitimately some surprises, some things that happened in these 8 episodes that I was not expecting. Especially around the 4th episode, I think is where there's a kind of a point in kind of the halfway point in the series where it's like some stuff happens. There's maybe a little bit of a time jump, and like, some spoilery things happen. So we won't get into that for the next few minutes. But I will say, like, definitely surprised me. Definitely really, really enjoyed it. I feel like it, if you enjoyed the Ninth Jedi, the original short that came out a few years ago with Star Wars Visions Volume 1, I feel like this continues that thing. You've got most of the same characters. Obviously, a lot of new characters are thrown into the mix. It continues that story, bookends that story with a lot of backstory of what's going on in this universe. And, I think you alluded to it last week, Dom, like, there's an opening shot that's like, whoa, okay, that's interesting, especially considering like this is supposed to be 1,000 years after Rise of Skywalker. Like, where
does this number come from? Where does this number come from? Because I tried to figure out where this number comes from, and as far as I could find out, it came from a Reddit thread where people were just guessing. Where does this number come from?
I thought it was part of the original. I think it was part of like the original Visions lineup on like StarWars.com. I think I remember reading that, like StarWars.com, and it's like one of them is Ninth Jedi, and I think they say like sometime after Episode 9. I feel like I remember.
I don't concern myself. Like any good person on the internet, I hear things, I don't fact check it, and I just repeat it and just spread misinformation because that's how you do it.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm talking on. Maybe I shouldn't be repeating that. But it's maybe sometime after Rise of Skywalker. Maybe something in that like first minute of the episode maybe confirms that a little bit. Maybe. Who knows? Either way, this show feels like it is trying to be faithful to Star Wars canon more so than any of the other Vision shorts. I think the other Vision shorts, are great in their own way. Some of them are like way out there in like trying to do something different, and like more power to them. I think this one, Ninth Jedi, is doing new things, but also is trying to seemingly work within the parameters of like what we know Star Wars to be. But it's far removed from what we assume to be the Skywalker saga. You could also say, well, maybe it's way before that. Maybe something happened. You never know. But I'm going, in my head canon, this is the future. This is way in the future. And it is very interesting to see it from that perspective because, like, there is a lot of stuff in here. And, from the production design and everything like that, like, it weirdly, like, there's some pretty blatant stuff that, like, hits on some themes and some big things that we've seen in Star Wars before, but they are done in a different way that I think it kind of like, you can kind of forgive it. I think like, like some of the bad guy ships like kind of sound like TIE fighters, but they look nothing like TIE fighters. There's nothing that looks like an X-Wing. Nothing looks like a Star Destroyer. Nothing like, anything Rebel or Imperial or whatever else. The designs are all new. That's something that obviously I want just from regular Star Wars sometimes. I feel like, the X-Wing TIE fighter, A-Wing, B-Wing, whatever else, that thing is kind of tired out. And I feel like, okay, if this really is 1,000 years in the future, yeah, things would be different. You would get new and different designs on starfighters like that. And on top of that, just like really great character moments. And like Lakara is great as an antagonist and really layered, and her
protagonist.
Did I say antagonist? I've never done that.
What show did you watch, Ben?
I don't know. Her lightsaber. We don't know. Her lightsaber turned red for half a second in the trailer. You never know. Maybe I was a slip of the tongue spoiler there. No.
Ben's like General Nawan. He's the real hero in this thing.
I support my general.
Oh boy. Long live Nawan. But all that is to say that I enjoyed this very much. Very good season of TV. I would love to see more of it, honestly, because I think this is, it was a lot to get me to watch all of this. I literally finished it today. So I would love to watch it again at some point when I have time, because these binges I do not like.
Yeah, I agree on that. I wasn't a fan of the way they released it, but I was definitely a fan of the show. Joel, give us your thoughts overall, again, spoiler free, on the Ninth Jedi.
You're a bunch of noobs. I binged it with a party in day one. We powered through, buddy. No. Yeah, I think this was a really good one to pick at like your first attempt at one of these Visions Presents. Um, I think for what Ben said, I think because this is like it's new enough because it's set in the far future. But it does feel still like it adheres a little bit to like the classical tenets compared to say, I don't know, like the Ronin, which is like I want to know more about that universe because that universe even seems more wild than this one for sure. I really love the characters. I really love the journey. I think the show does a thematic thing that or debunks something in a thematic way that I think fans have been going on about for years. And I think if you want to debunk this thing, you should show them the show. I love the style. The animation's beautiful. Um, and I think this is a really interesting take. I'm not sure if I want more. If I'm going to be honest, not because I didn't, I hate it. I loved it, but it's like I am kind of curious of like how much is too much before we just fall into the same. Oh well, welcome to another franchise, folks. We don't want to dilute it too much. That's the kind of the point of Vision. It's like you get a vision. I don't think we want to build like another IP around it. So I'm hesitant to like how much more do I want? Kind of keep purity of it a little bit, but it told a pretty good story from beginning to end, and I really loved it. So yeah,
6 seasons in a movie. That's what I want. I get what you're saying on that front. I do want more. I would like another season or two, but there is like you don't want to. You can't oversaturate things, and there's already a lot of Star Wars in development, a lot of Star Wars coming out. I know sometimes we lament that there isn't enough of the things that each of us individually wants, but as a whole, there is a lot of Star Wars, and if you want to do more Star Wars Visions Present shows, if you're running on season 7 of one show and season 3 of another, it gets to be a lot, and there's already a lot. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. There were points in it where I was watching it and like truly like at the edge of my seat going, what is going to happen next? There were moments I was surprised. I liked the take on the galaxy. I liked how they presented a different sort of villain in the Star Wars galaxy. He had his familiarities, his similarities to characters we've seen before, but his origin story I thought was pretty unique, and his goals were kind of interesting, and what he was looking to achieve I thought was very interesting. And I thought we got a classic, like great hero adventure story with Kara. If I had like some like minor criticisms, I would have liked some more time with some of these secondary characters. Ethan, I thought it was a great character who didn't get enough time. I can't. The alien Jedi dude, his name's Homan. I think that's his name, which is funny because it's sort of like human, but he's an alien.
Yeah.
I like him, but I don't feel like I know him yet.
Just kind of there.
Yeah, same thing with the Margrave. Like I really like what we got, but I would have liked some more. And so in that sense, maybe a little bit more time with these characters might have been nice. Maybe some longer episodes, maybe 2 more episodes, just to give us a little bit more time, because there is a lot of story to get through. My other like minor critique of this, and it's both a critique and a compliment, is this feels like it's a Japanese take on a lot of familiar Star Wars tropes and a lot of familiar Star Wars ideas, which is both good and bad, because it shows us those ideas that we are familiar with and that we know in a new light, in a new way, with a new spin on it, in a way that doesn't feel cynical. It feels like this is like, yes, we're presenting a fresh take on. Yeah, I'll use an example from episode 1, destroying the droid control ship. You're giving us a fresh take on that. But at the same time, when I saw that first short, I thought, wow, this is such a unique vision of the Star Wars galaxy. I really am excited to know what more could be going on in the galaxy at this time, and to find that the episodes fell back on some really familiar elements left me going, oh, I feel like we maybe didn't quite do every bit of or didn't quite fully live up to that sort of potential of doing something that's totally weird and random and off the table, which I think, Joel, you alluded to it. The Ronin might be the story for that. And I mean, all signs point to the next Star Wars Visions Presents being that. Like, I would be stunned if it's anything else, as much as there are many other Vision shorts that I love. If the next series, I'm going to emphasize series here.
Wink if you follow the news.
Important distinction.
Oh, wink.
Yeah. I would expect that to be Ronin. But sticking with the Ninth Jedi, overall, very fun. Give me season 2. I'm all for it. Like, bring back Production IG and let them do some more of this. And the thing is, about that first critique of maybe going back to the familiar well a little bit too much, with season 2, you've already done some of those things. So you got to do something else. You got to try something else. I know that's famous last words. I know I've said that about other things, only for them to go back to the well again and again and again. But I think I like to think that a second season would provide us with more opportunities for all of that. Is there anything else you guys want to say that you think you can say spoiler free?
I think maybe this is a good transition into spoilers a little bit. I'm very pleased with the character arcs, and honestly, some of the risks I think they took with the characters in their lowest points.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I think that's a good place to say, starting now, the spoiler zone is in effect. The spoiler warning is in effect. If you don't want to know spoilers, if you're watching or listening to this after the fact, so not live, check the description. We will tell you when you are safe to come back to hear Ben regale us with stories from Rebel Scum Con, and to hear us talk about a couple of other news stories. But I think from this point out, we will be discussing spoilers. So yes, let's talk about some of those character arcs. And Joel, since you brought it up, I'm going to throw to you to take it away, whichever one you are most interested to begin this conversation with.
Let's talk about Kara, because I think I said it earlier. My hot take about the Ninth Jedi. This is the perfect show if you ever want to debunk why a gray Jedi is not a good thing.
I was literally about to say the same thing. Thank you.
I think her arc is almost a rejection of the gray Jedi idea. This idea of, because Nawan's thing is he thinks he can only be like an emotionalist robot. I compare him, like, he's like Thanos in Infinity War. It's like, I'm just going to do this from become pragmatic. I don't really feel anything. And, I just got to bring order to the galaxy. I got to snap my fingers and do it. But I don't really feel anything. And Kara is, at the end, is like, nah, dude, you feel stuff. You feel it. You feel that anger in you. And then, spoiler, but his lightsaber, his silver saber turns red at the end. And then Kara, who's also got a silver saber because she's kind of going through stuff, is like, no, I got to embrace compassion and kindness. And then she turns green. I skipped a bunch of stuff. I'm sorry. Let's go back. So what I love about Kara's arc, she kind of starts in the Jedi, like, I'm a Jedi, blah, blah, blah. And then she loses her master, classic tropes. And then you get to episode 5. Mm-hmm. This is my favorite episode. Episode 5 is my favorite episode because kind of two things. One, I just love it when characters crash out in general. That's always fun. And I love that Kara, the sweet, innocent-looking girl, she pretty much has an Anakin Skywalker, I'm going to just kill everybody on the ship because they're hurting my friends.
Valid crash out.
And she, they really go, with her face and her facial design. She's, cutting and then, one where she's just, putting it in very slowly. And she's, got the angry psycho face like Anakin does in some of the Karakowski Clone Wars stuff. It's great. And then, obviously, what I love about it at the end is she comes from the fire to see her monkey friends, and she just got this sweet innocent little smile, I took care of it, it's fine. And then they're all looking at her, and she's like, "Oh my god, the lightsaber is red. Oh no, what did I do?" And it stays red for like an episode or two before she kind of like calms herself. But then she doesn't go back to green. She goes to silver, which is sort of like that emotionless state again for quite a bit until her final arc with Nawan, and then she goes back to green. But what I was talking about earlier with the character arcs is I sometimes feel like when we want to do good guy characters to go to the dark side, we never want to. With the exception of like Anakin, of course, like I just mentioned, we kind of I feel like maybe get a little too soft with them. Like they don't. What they do isn't really that bad in the grand scheme of things. It's like, oh, but they're just acting like I had a dark side moment. Whoa, no, but like all you did was like just accidentally moved a rock very hard or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe like in Rey's case, like she accidentally shot the lightning and that was it. And she didn't even kill Chewie, so like everything's fine. Or like Ezra, maybe he kills some Imperials, I guess, but they're still faceless, I guess. That's like in Rebels. But but here you see like Cara, she's just like going at it. She's like about to crush people with like painfully. And I like seeing like, yeah, it gets violent, very violent. And nothing, like so I think that was great too. And overall, like I thought her character journey from her high to her lowest to back to kind of that inner peace again, I think was great. And I think that just makes for a very good character arc.
Yeah, I agree. Like episode 5 is also my favorite episode of this series. I think the depiction of her, of how she gets to that point where her lightsaber is red, I think is so compelling because it's very honest and it's very relatable. She has her little alien critter friends that are kind of, they're fun. They're like the fun aliens of the show, the cute aliens of the show, and there's the one in particular who's always like trying to hang out with her, and she's already like in mourning. She's grieving the loss of Juro in the previous episode, and so she's in like a raw emotional place, and all of a sudden the bad guys show up and they start attacking her new friends, and having just experienced a trauma, experienced grief of losing her master, she's like, never again. I'm not going to let this happen to anyone else. And so she lashes out and she attacks, and she does, in a sense, she does a good thing, right? She stops the bad guys who were attacking them, but she does it from this place of anger, of hatred, of revenge. And so then when she returns, you laid it out so well there, Joel, of all the little critters looking at her, and they go from looking at her as a friend to looking at her as she's the monster now, because she's just done this horrible thing. And she it wasn't like she killed somebody because she had no other choice. She went in there and she wanted to do that. This is what she wanted to achieve, what she wanted to accomplish. And she does it. And she still thinks she's done the right thing. It's not until she looks at her lightsaber and it's changed from green to red as she realizes what she's done and how far she's fallen, and what her not being able to keep a check on her emotions has done, and what is led to. It's anger, fear, all of these things are real emotions, and where the Jedi of the prequels get into a little bit of trouble is that they try to suppress them. And the trick is to not suppress them. It's to listen to them, but not act on them entirely, not let them be the sole thing that drives you. And when you do that, you go, no matter how righteous your cause is, because she has a righteous cause, absolutely, in this moment, you run the risk of becoming the monster yourself. And that's what she does in that scene. And it's absolutely fantastic visual storytelling in that episode. Like it's not a silent film. There's dialogue. We hear her talking back and forth, but it kind of is. Like you could watch, this is an episode you could watch without the dialogue. You just have the music and the sound effects and the animation performances, that convey everything you need to know. And it's really, really fantastic. It's one of my favorite animated episodes of Star Wars that we've had in a long time. And there have been some great animated Star Wars episodes with all the Vision shorts, with Bad Batch and Clone Wars and Maul Shadow Lord in recent years. But this is up there in the upper echelon with some of the best of those shows as well. Ben,
and it's
jump in here.
another. No, it's fine. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. Because everything you're saying there is spot on. But I want to add that, like, it's a great like payoff and an extension of like what drew me into the Ninth Jedi in the original short. Of just like, oh, these lightsabers that reflect your emotions, and how you can read a scene, how you can do that, how characters are like doing things. Obviously this reflects more into the finale too, obviously. But like in this episode, it's like you can read certain things. Like I'm thinking of other scenes in Star Wars, in the Star Wars films, where you could like how a lightsaber like this would feature differently. Like, you take the Tusken Raider scene in Attack of the Clones. Like, I think it's safe to say that when Anakin sees his mother die in his arms, when he ignites his lightsaber, it would not have been blue. It would have been red in that moment. I love the theory that like in that moment within Anakin, the Darth Vader persona is born. Like that deep darkness within him that comes bubbling out, because up until that point he was tortured, but kind of a well-rounded individual mostly. But going forward, it's like that's with him, and I think you can watch that scene. I guess I know it's a bad reading of the scene, but I suppose you could watch that scene in Attack of the Clones and be like, well, he was angry, and also they killed his mother. Maybe.
Okay, Padme, chill.
Maybe he's kind of, you could find a way to justify it. I'm not saying it's right, just saying you could read it that way. But the idea that like turning your right lightsaber red like automatically shows this is bad, guys. What Kara did was bad. It was not. She was doing something not out of defense. She was doing it because obviously she wanted to do it and was doing it out of anger, and that's something. And this like having this visual representation of just like, oh, this is what's happening. Star Wars is all about the visuals, all about the metaphors. This is it.
Yeah.
And what's great about
I'm just gonna say, just on the lightsaber front, I this is something that if there's anything from this show that I'd like to see be brought into the main Star Wars storytelling, it's this idea of the lightsabers reflecting your personality like this. I know, it might cause problems and people can whinge about contradictions, like you said, like you use that example, Ben, of Anakin in Attack of the Clones. But I think it's such a cool concept, and it's something that I like a lot. I know the current explanation for how a lightsaber becomes red is you have to bleed it, which is kind of a cool idea, not gonna lie. But I like this. I kind of like this better, and I think it's something that again was toyed with in the prequels. If you look at concept art for Revenge of the Sith, the duel on Mustafar, Obi-Wan has a blue lightsaber, Anakin has a red lightsaber. Right. There was even a toy that came out in 2005 where the lightsaber changed colors. It sort of suggests that maybe there might have been a version of that duel in which Anakin starts with a blue and ends with a red lightsaber. But ultimately, they stuck with blue all the way through because blue shows up better on a red background in a movie. It's the same reason we wound up with a green lightsaber in Return of the Jedi, because ultimately, the cinematic experience does have to come first. But it's just such a cool concept. I loved how they utilized it in the original Ninth Jedi short, and then they still managed to use it effectively a couple of times in this, with the silver lightsaber, with this red lightsaber moment we've been talking about, but also the first time Nawan ignites his lightsaber and it's blue. That was the first moment for me where I sort of sat up of like, oh, we might be doing something really interesting here. And they did. But yeah, I love this lightsaber changing color concept. I just wanted to say that. But Joel, let me toss it back to you. Jump in here, pal.
Yeah. So two things. One, I think they could actually find a way to do this, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the mood sabers, as people are calling them, I think they're like special weapons that Kara's dad himself made. So I don't think this is a typical saber. So You could just say, well, Car's dad learned this from the special book he found that's 1,000 years old, and we're gonna do these special sabers. There we go.
One of those
we
books
have
in
new
the tree.
Yeah, exactly.
As the
I
explanation.
mean, we have Star Wars has a history of introducing new and unique lightsabers. Take the Darksaber, for example. Darksaber's kind of crazy in concept. But yet, the Clone Wars was like, yeah, this is a thing. And George was like, yeah, this has always been a thing for thousands of years. You could very easily down the line be like, hey, somebody came up with a new type of lightsaber, which is how the Ninth Jedi treats it, which is like, this is a new type of lightsaber that has been recently seemingly invented.
But I wanted to bring up what I like about it is even when Kara realizes what she's done and she's like, I'm a monster. She had that moment. She kind of like, I'm now as evil as the most evil. Like she's having her like self-loathing moment. What I like about it though is even when she's down, like really down, the saber still doesn't turn back. Even like when she gets it back, it's still red as heck. And she's just using it as a red lightsaber for a whole other episode until she kind of befriends or kind of gets on her side that bounty hunter dude and she becomes gray. So I like the fact that it's even when she's sad and kind of like, oh my god, what I've done, it's like, nope, it's still red. You're still red, honey.
Yeah, it's like you have to work to get back to that place of like, you've done an evil thing. Now it's not enough to just be like, well, I'm doing good things now. It's like there has to be like a redemption arc. Like you have to go through something in order to find that redemption. You have to atone in some way for what you've done, in the same way that the first bad thing that she does doesn't immediately turn her lightsaber red. Like doing one bad thing does not mean you're an evil person. You might just be somebody who made a stupid mistake, and the lightsaber kind of reflects that. Like she, the first kill, she's still green. It's only after she's like really like gone all out, relentless, that it's red and it stays red. And so I think it kind of reflects that process of, good and evil is not a light switch. It's a dimmer. It takes time to get from one to the other.
Let's face it, Star Wars has a bit of a problem of treating good and evil like a light switch. Like, it does it a little bit with Vader, where he does the good thing and now he gets to be a Force ghost. I mean, that's just in the original trilogy context. Even Ben Solo a little bit kind of feels like, I'm a good guy now. I've been healed. I know. I mean, a lot of it's that because they die the next scene and we don't have time to really span it out. Right. So this is, again, the advantage of a series over... I mean, Crosshair is a better example, in my opinion, of the redemption arc because he has to have... He hits rock bottom, and then when he joins the batch are still kind of like, hey, there's this man.
Crosshair,
you have to work for it.
The way they handled Crosshair, like across all 3 seasons of Bad Batch, is like pitch perfect, like how you do rise, fall, and redemption of a character. Like it's just absolutely terrific stuff. And yeah, like you're absolutely right, Joel. Like in Star Wars, there is a little bit of like the snap you're good, snap you're evil thing. Well, snap you're good. The snap you're evil is it played out over 3 movies pretty nicely in the prequels. But with the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi is meant to be the ending of a contained story. It leaves you on a happy note. It's where we venture a little bit into fairy tale mode. Same thing with Ben Solo. JJ's trying to emulate that with Rise of Skywalker. But this is why we were talking like about how they could handle Anakin's story in season 2 of Ahsoka. This is why you do those stories. It's why you do a movie like The Hunt for Ben Solo, to like take these ideas that are only sort of like maybe hinted at or teased out a little bit in the main movies, and you go, okay, let's interrogate this a little bit. Let's do a story that explores this idea and these themes. And that's something I am very hopeful for with Ahsoka season 2 with Anakin and seeing that he's presumably going to have a pretty sizable role in that story. And it's why I remain eternally dismayed at Bob Iger and Alan Horn. No, who was it? I can't remember who the other one was. That blocked The Hunt for Ben Solo. And my great hope from Josh tomorrow is that he will reverse course on that and get Adam and
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's all.
No.
That's the Kinberg trilogy. I think that's going to happen in the Kinberg trilogy.
Oh no, I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. I'm saying I hope it happens. I'm just
okay.
I'm not delusional.
I'm not expecting this. I just would like it to happen. I'd like Steven Soderbergh and Adam Driver to get a chance to tell that story, but it probably won't.
Maybe in the Kinberg trilogy, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, that's a topic for later. What else will we get into? Let's talk a little bit about General Nawan. He is our primary antagonist, wearing a Vader-esque mask for the first few episodes. I know that the mask is very Vader in its design. I got more of a Stranger vibe, like Manny Jacinto from Acolyte.
Stranger, Kylo Ren, yeah.
I got that kind of vibe
Samurai.
from this character, both with and without the helmet. I think part of that is the performance, certainly in the English language version from who plays him, Young Mazzino, who does a really good job with that performance. Ben, let's toss to you. What did you think of our not so good general in this story?
Well, yeah, it's funny because I like I said, I literally watched the last episode today, just a few hours ago. So it's all fresh in my mind. And like I'm jumping off, I don't want to steal your thunder here too much, Joel, but like you brought it up and I want to, feed into this. This character feels like maybe not an intentional, but at least an unintentional rebuke of the idea of Grey Jedi, of this whole idea. I understand it's very prevalent online. People love the idea of like, oh, someone who's using the light and the darks and they're finding balance and blah, blah, blah. People have their own interpretations of what balance means from very different perspectives. I understand why, and you want to deal with that in fanfiction or whatever else, but people, when they talk about like putting it into Star Wars canon, I've always been just like, no, that's not how it works. Like, once you start down the dark path, forever will dominate your destiny. Those words, every word that Yoda speaks in The Empire Strikes Back is tattooed onto my brain, and I will always use that as the bedrock for my understanding of the Force.
Don't
tell me you're one of those guys.
I'm not. No, I don't like the idea of like I'm a good guy, but I use Force lightning. Like I'm not into that. But you just brought up that line from Yoda. Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Yoda is wrong about that, and we spend the entire next. Yes, we do. We spend the entire next movie going into how he's wrong with that, because the way he says it is like you're doomed for all eternity. We know that that's not true. That's not what happens to
I might prefer fear leads to anger leads to hate leads to suffering. That's a better Yoda line.
My interpretation. Here. I'm going to throw this out there, and
that's more
feel
correct.
free to fight amongst yourselves about this. But my interpretation of, forever will it dominate your destiny, is applying that to Anakin. Is that like obviously Anakin makes a lot of bad choices. He does a lot of really bad things, but he ultimately comes back to the light in the end. But it does, in a lot of ways, dominate his destiny until he is dead. And even after his death, as we were talking about with Ahsoka earlier. And I think I think that's a reading, and maybe true in a lot of ways. Yoda was wrong in a lot of ways, but I think in that sense, when the dark side is this temptation, this forbidden fruit, this thing of I'm gonna take the quick and easy path. I'm going to give into anger, and once you start down that path, you can come back from it, but it's still going to dominate you. It's still going to be a part of you. And I think we see it with Luke. I know everyone loves to assume that like Luke is a precious, pure being of light. But ultimately, Luke is someone who is constantly tempted by the dark side, constantly who, when he's wailing on Vader in Return of the Jedi at the end, what he is tapping into the darkness. I think that's a darkness he deals with up until the point where he just, for the instant, is thinking about killing his nephew. Like that thing, he deals with that for the rest of his life. It, in a way, dominates his destiny.
I mean, I'll say this.
And
I'll say this. I think, look, I think, you know, again, this is kind of how I've talked about, like, I think it's because of, if you just watch Return of the Jedi, you kind of have a perception of Anakin. I do think that people have too much of a perception of Anakin. Of, again, we've turned on the good guy switch for Anakin. Now his soul is like, oh, you know, right? Where I do think, look, if we're kind of looking at souls and whatnot, I do think Anakin's soul needs healing. There's a lot of healing Anakin's got to do. Like, he's no longer, he's not Golden Boy anymore, if he ever was, right? So I don't know if I agree with that interpretation, Ben, but I do think, like, look, Anakin, whether he had lived or died, say with Ben Solo, they would have had a lot to deal with. And I don't think this ever would have, Vader and Kylo Ren would never have truly left them. I think even if Anakin had lived to the age old of 100, the shadow of Vader would always follow him. But, even if, you know, not necessarily like I think he would fall, although I do like the idea of people who have relapses like drug addicts. Because again, it's like drug addicts. The dark side to me is like a drug. You will have relapses. Yeah. And I do think Anakin will always have, if Anakin were alive, he would have to work on it forever. I don't think he would ever be tainted.
Here's where I'm coming from. Dominate is such a strong word. It will dominate your destiny. You know, will it be part of you? Yes, but it's part of everybody. That's the whole point of the Yoda arc in the Clone Wars, is you don't just defeat your dark side once. It's a constant thing. That's what he says to the little gremlin version of himself. That's how he realizes how to get on to the next part of the journey. Dominate to me is like, you are encased in this helmet. You can only exist by tapping into your hatred, and that is the only existence that you can have. And that to me is like, you have to die like Palpatine, screaming and shouting, force lightninging either up while you're falling down the Death Star shaft, or while you're like exploding on Exegol. Like, that's the dark side dominating your destiny. Anakin getting that final moment with Luke, that's the opposite of the dark side dominating his destiny. That's him, to me, that's him taking control of his destiny and saying, I'm not going to let the dark side dominate my destiny. So yes, I understand where we're coming from, that like the dark side is always part of you. And when you have this, when your story involves what Anakin and Vader's story involves of you know, embracing the dark side for 2 decades and being, you know, this like broken version of yourself by it. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But and that even if when you do come back, that is always going to be part of you. I like that too, Joel. I want, like, this is why I said I want this in Ahsoka season 2, is why I want the hunt for Ben Solo. I want to see this idea explored. But I just think that the dark side will dominate your destiny. That's Yoda being a bit hyperbolic. That's him trying to scare Luke. He's trying to scare Luke straight in that moment. When really, you know, and maybe Yoda truly believes that. And you know, he's had the experiences of the prequel trilogy. Maybe that's what he's come away from it believing.
Scares this kid straight, I must, so he doesn't make stupid decisions like father. We'll exactly. Smack him on head. I will.
Yeah, exactly. But it to me, it's just, it's too extreme. I think that the dark side doesn't dominate your destiny unless you let it. And Anakin / Kylo Ren lets it for a long time, but they figure, Anakin and Kylo Ren, I should say, but they eventually stop letting it, and that's when they get to come back. And that's where like, you know, I'm not like I said, you know, when people talk about the Gray Jedi stuff, I don't really even know precisely what they mean, because I think there's a version of like balance that's kind of interesting, of being in touch with your anger and emotion. And sometimes I think when people use that term, that's what they mean. And then sometimes I think they just mean, oh, I want to see Luke Skywalker fighting, but also using Force lightning. And that's like Force lightning, Force lightning and Jedi.
It's very edgelordy.
Those things. Yeah, those things don't go together. Like, you can't tap into using Force lightning unless you're tapping into those dark side emotions. That's my interpretation. And to me, so like that, yeah, that version of Gray Jedi doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I think there is kind of a a nuanced version of that term that gets used sometimes, not the majority of the time, but sometimes, that is kind of intriguing to me as a storytelling device. But I agree with you both that Noan, this character in this show that we are discussing, does challenge that sort of version of it, of like, I'm gonna have my blue lightsaber and my force lightning, and it kind of exposes the folly of that, and shows that, eventually if you commit to using dark side powers until you choose to stop, it does dominate you. And that's where I will hand it back to Ben, because
that was a detour. I'm sorry for throwing that wrench in the gears.
No,
that
was
not
great.
My intention.
That was great. It's we are splitting hairs, but what does dominate your destiny means. Let us know in the Discord. Let us know for next week.
I see where everyone else that lands in this grand.
I would love to know what George meant at the time when he wrote that. Maybe he would have preferred to use a different word.
And has George changed his mind in the 40 some odd years since Empire?
Maybe.
But like ultimately, like the point I'm trying to make here is that like I think you have this idea that like, oh, you can just play with the dark side. You can just mess around with the dark side. You can just tap into the darkness whenever you want. And I think that's I think what George was trying to say, regardless of like how extreme you want to go with it, it's just like, well, no, you can't do that. It will consume you. If you start down that path, you're going to go all the way. You're not going to be anxious. I think Noam is like, I'm in the center. I've got a silver lightsaber. I am completely emotionless. I'm devoid of all this. I'm above your feeble, simple, binary thinking of Jedi versus Sith, darkness versus light. And then there's like, like literally getting to the end and be like, congratulations, man, you played yourself. Like, like he looks down, he's got a red lightsaber. He's like, oh, okay. You thought you were above this, and he just falls into the trap. He falls into like things. I think that's what any true like gray Jedi in a canonical real Star Wars story would do, is they would start out being like, yeah, I'm a badass, I use force lightning and have a blue lightsaber, and then they would end up a Sith Lord, or in Noam's case, he seems to realize his mistake pretty quickly, but still not too great.
What I think everybody's gonna compare him to Kylo Ren because a lot of the like I'm above Jedi and Sith stuff and blah blah blah. I feel like people are gonna do that. I honestly think the best comparison of another villain is not Kylo Ren. He's Thanos. Because if you watch Infinity War, Thanos is trying his dang best to just be like, I'm just doing this emotionlessly. Like, I gotta do it. I gotta bring balance to the world. So sorry, gotta kill half the world. Sorry, do that. They call me a madman, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it's funny because in an Endgame, even though it's a younger Thanos, when he's fighting the Avengers and he's losing, he goes, every world I went to, I didn't feel anything. Then he goes, but what I'm going to do to your world, I'm going to enjoy. He kind of gives up the idea of like he's emotional. Like, no, I'm petty and I want to beat these 3 Avengers to death. And I think in some way that's what Nawan is trying to be. He's trying to be the emotionalist. I'm trying to bring order to this warlord-stricken galaxy. I have found balance, and because of that, I will feel nothing. I will be a robot, pretty much, right? Like, he's not a Kylo Ren or a Sith or even a Vader. Where like Vader's cold, but it's an anger cold. It is I'm cold, but if you just look at me wrong, I will. And then you got the Emperor, of course, who's like, yes, I'm going to kick puppies and take candy from babies today. yeah, like I'm enjoying the evil today. What evil? Right? That sort of thing. Or Kylo Ren is just like, Luke sucks, Rey sucks, you all suck, or stupid Hux. Like I'm just petulant child anger. Like Nawan is just really trying to just be this emotionless person because in a weird way, because he's a child of trauma. He saw a very traumatic thing as a kid and took wrong lessons from it to be this robot of and this disciple of Master Jima, Kara's dad, even though Jima's like, no, you idiot, this is not what we're trying to do at all. And again, to kind of go back to Kara for half a second, Kara is like, she also does that thing of like, she finds the balance of, she acknowledges her darkness, but at the end of the day, she's like, I'm going to always, even though I know I have this darkness in me, I can commit these bad things. Every time I'm aware of that, I will always choose kindness, compassion, to help others, justice, and that's why at the end her lightsaber turns green and she becomes the Jedi. She decides, I'm going to walk the path of the Jedi. Because to me, that's just the path of kindness, and that's what I want to do. Where Nawan, his lightsaber turns red because ultimately that's what he's feeling. It's just anger, and he does show it off for a little bit in that final duel, which he finally like charges, like shut up. He has his little Kylo Ren moment of like, shut up, girl. And then they clash. But no, I really think Nawan is interesting as a villain. I think he's very cool. I love his look outside the mask. It's a little Kylo Ren with silver hair, and I love kind of the dead-eyed look, which is an anime trope. He's not blind. He just had that. It's that anime trope. That's just a very tropey thing of like dead eyes look. And also, I got a question for you guys. Gonna make you guys think. Gonna blow your brains. Is Nawan? Is he the Ninth Jedi? Is he the Ninth Jedi? Because he's the ninth member of that council.
He's given a lightsaber at the end. And
I think there's only
led to ask the question what color it is.
Yeah.
But is he the Ninth Jedi? Is he the final one? Is he the ninth?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that about this same question as I was watching it, and I kept sort of wondering it, especially as you get to the last episode and all the characters are coming together and everybody's getting their lightsabers, and I'm like, yeah, there's 8 of them. I guess he's 9. And
7, 8, 9.
Yeah, there's a throwback. And so yeah, I think that's what the implication is. Although this is where a second season would be really interesting again to explore some of some of those ideas. But yeah, I do remember there's a shot of all of them on the space station before they split off on their sort of separate missions, and it's like, yeah, there are 8 people here holding lightsabers, and so the only person who could be the 9th would be Nawan. And again, Nawan's lightsaber at the beginning is blue, so it's not like even though he dresses evil and acts evil, it's not like he's totally gone from the start. And as we've been talking about, it does seem like there are opportunities to return from the dark path. And so I think, yeah, making him the 9th Jedi in, if we get a season 2 or some sort of follow-up to this, I think makes a lot of sense and fits with a lot of the themes that the show was exploring. And again, there's still potential on the table for more stories with this, be it a follow-up season or maybe just another shortened Star Wars Visions Volume 4. There's definitely an opportunity there. What I'll say about Nawan is I really loved his backstory. I really thought this was a creative twist on it. Of Star Wars, we love to have backstories where the hero and the villain are connected in some way. It all stems from I Am Your Father. We know there has to be some deep connection, but I like this was a little bit of a spin on it where like he felt a very deep connection to Jima. But Jima didn't feel the same way, didn't have that same connection. He was idolizing this version of him that didn't really exist. I liked the idea of Jima being under realizing that what his Jedi masters were doing was wrong, and wanting to do something about it, and maybe going too far in his pursuit of justice and crossing some sort of moral line or light side, dark side, gray side line through all of this. And that moment, which may have been brief for him, actually inspiring somebody else to pursue that. I think that's a really interesting idea of like, I accidentally created a monster and now I have to deal with it. It's I thought it was a really fun twist on the regular Star Wars hero villain backstory connection, and it built up to something pretty interesting, and they managed to create a pretty good dynamic between him and Kara for the final confrontation. It was very, very good there. But Ben, let me throw to you for first answer Joel's question, because I realized I didn't give you a chance. Is now on the Ninth Jedi, and then give us your thoughts on his backstory.
I mean, it would make sense if he was, and I do like if we're going into sequel territory for getting multiple seasons of this. Like, I would love, like, again, that's true redemption. And I don't like want to like, go after Kylo Ren or Darth Vader, Ben Solo, Anakin Skywalker, but doing a bunch of bad stuff and then doing one good thing at the end and then dying. I don't know if that's redemption. I don't know if that's true redemption. I think true redemption is, like you said, with Crosshair, doing, actually coming back and making amends with the people that you wronged and, trying to do better. I would love a situation where it's like Nawam coming back and maybe this is him trying to, make amends for what he did and also earn the right to be a part of that council at the end. I think that would be really cool. And the implications of just okay, can you step up and do what's right and overcome all this? Can we forgive you? Because that's a big thing. People that were wronged, feeling like they can forgive someone after, they've been wronged by someone. So I think it's a lot of good questions, a lot of good themes. As weird as interesting and as unique as this show looks, it's really, I think the criticism that he's flying a little too close to the sun with the references and with the themes may be valid. But I think a lot of it is intentional. And I think a lot of it is the creators being like, yeah, this is Star Wars. We're going to touch on a lot of the things that George Lucas touched on and furthermore. So, it makes sense. And I think take those things further, guys. Go a little bit further. If you're going to add to this, take what's established and go further with it and see where you can go and maybe touch on some things that we haven't seen in Star Wars before.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see if they can take up the challenge with Nawan, because here's the thing about Vader and even Ben Solo to a degree, which I understand maybe why you killed them, although I don't agree with Ben more than I do with Anakin, to be fair, is these guys, with Crosshair, he's a trooper. He did and he did some really bad things. He did massacre that one village, but he's still a trooper. These guys were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Mm-hmm. They are, I'm going to say it, they're space Hitler. I mean, obviously Palpatine's truly, but they are the equivalent of that, right? And, they are, even if they didn't do it personally, they signed the forms that sent people off to the camps. And Kylo Ren has ordered the execution of villagers. He led charges, if you watch the comics. People have, one of the critiques, kind of funny enough, of modern Star Wars is the more we show Vader doing Vader things, the more people say it's kind of getting harder to forgive him when we see every village and planet he's screwed over and killed and massacred and led armies and bombarded and blah 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 blah. And Vader, even if he I'm good now, it's okay, well, here's a list of all your war crimes, your genocides, your imprisonments, your executions, the people you killed, the people you maimed, blah 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 blah. And it's sort of how do you get over that when the list is so high? Nawan's interesting because, again, he is in that higher echelon. He literally ordered the destruction of a planet. People there are refugees now because of him. Thanks a lot, man. Yeah. And you are kind of you might let him on this Jedi Council. I mean, thank goodness there's no central government, because otherwise the Galactic Republic would be jail time, please. Somewhat spoilers for High Republic's ending, but that's why I kind of like how they handled Marcion Rowe, who didn't get redeemed. He was I'm going down to the ship, and he gets his punishment. They're jail time, 1,000 years of life in the isolation. My guess is if both Kylo and Ben if Ben and Anakin had lived, it's not White Knight Vader like Infinity. It's probably Yeah, Vader. Either you get the death penalty or you go to jail forever. Unless we can smuggle you out and you have to get exiled. And like maybe if you're lucky, Luke will come visit you. But that's it. That's probably where Anakin ends up. That's probably where Ben ends up. Maybe Rey will visit. It's not going to be and now Ben and Finn and Poe are buddies and they're going on adventures. Like, no, it's jail time forever. Probably. So I think it would be interesting with Nawan again because of the lawlessness of the galaxy to kind of see like, well, maybe the planets won't kill you, or some planets won't, although maybe they will. Like, it's like, no galactic treaty, so they can just, like, mob us. But it would be interesting to see how they could deal with that because he is a more higher profile baddie who has shown his face. More people want him dead, probably. And it doesn't matter how much he says, I'm sorry. I low-key kind of agree with the civilians on this one.
Well, this is an interesting thing, and this again is a story I would like to see them tell. Is the difference between, sort of internal redemption and other people, forgiving you. That those are two very different things, and part of that is when someone is wronged by someone else, they have no obligation to forgive. That is something they can choose to do, and it's very, very, very powerful when people do choose that. I think that's one of the most remarkably powerful things that people can do, is to look at somebody who has done something terrible to you or to people that you love or to anybody and say, you know what, I forgive you. I think that's such a remarkably powerful human thing that people can do. And it's not easy. And that is the flip side of the coin. And if you were to do one of these stories, be it with Anakin, be it with Kylo, be it with Nawan, that takes place afterwards, there's a lot of rich narrative material there of what does it take for them to redeem their soul internally, and what does it take for them to heal the relationships with their community, and how do they handle people that will just never forgive them
and integrate into galactic society too, and reintegrate into society if you can. Like, could Vader ever do that? I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, that's a story for someone to tell someday if they ever want to. That was something I had hoped for with episode 9, was that instead of Kylo Ren being killed, is that Ben Solo gets to be exiled. Like, I agree. He can't just suddenly be at the party with everybody else. He's got to go off and go on some sort of journey, both literal and figurative, to figure out what happened and what he does next. And you frame that as an exile, so that way you can have sort of narrative cohesion that makes sense. I think that's a real real fertile ground for a future story, if anyone ever wants to get to that point. Now, let's see, what else do we want to get into here? What other aspects of the show stand out to you guys? I'll throw this.
I got one. I got a good one.
Take it away.
And this is something where I hope to see in the Kinberg 10, 11, 12, or just the post-Rise of Skywalker era in general. I like the way they're building this Jedi Order. Joro even said it himself, was like, I'm not really looking for people who are attuned with the Force. I'm kind of just looking for good people. And, it reminded me a little of Luke Skywalker and how he did it in the early Legends era in the 90s, where he's like, hey, Mara Jade, you done trying to kill me? You want to be a Jedi? That's cool. Here's my dad's lightsaber. It's yours now. Hey, Kyle Katarn, Han Solo mercenary guy. You got the Force and you kind of a cool dude. You want to be a Jedi? Cool. Kip Duron, you don't look crazy at all. You want to be a Jedi? I'm sure that won't cause problems. And Juro kind of do the same thing. Where it's like, he gives it to Takara and the dwarf guy, and then Kara gives it to that bounty hunter dude. I remember talking to a friend of mine at the end of that, where it's like, dang, what a promotion. You go from bounty hunter looking dude to now a member of the new Jedi Council. That's kind of a power
crazy glow up.
I loved that part so much. I love that idea. And again, this is when we're talking about Kara being on her like redemption journey, post episode 5, that like she sees in this person who is, for all intents and purposes, her enemy. She sees in him the potential to be a Jedi and goes for it. Like on paper, on the surface, that should make no sense. You shouldn't be like, yes, this bounty hunter is trying to murder me. I want him on my side. Like, you know, that doesn't make that's not something that you think of instinctively. But she is far enough along on her journey. She has seen what Juro has done and how he has sought out non-traditional allies. And she looks at this guy and goes, oh, I see the potential here. And she then gives him the opportunity to become something more than bounty hunter only out for the payday, to, you know, be part of something bigger than himself. I thought it was really, really powerful and impactful and really well done, and not a Star Wars story that we've seen told yet. That was something that I thought was very unique to this story. It's something that can and should be done in other stories, but it felt like, at least for on screen, this was something that I hadn't seen before, and I really, really liked it, and I thought it spoke very highly of our main character.
Oh,
yeah, a tremendous like character moment for Kara, just being like her going from being very disheveled and captured to like, okay, I'm taking control of the situation, and you work for me now. And I'm even going to give you a lightsaber, and you're going to be a Jedi. You're going to be, you know, and just like, oh, okay, wow, this is great. And then like the dude literally ending up on the Jedi Council in the end and being like, okay, all right, I love this. I love that, like, you know, the idea that just like, yeah, it's not about power. It's not about like, oh, what's your midi-chlorian count? It's about like, oh, you seem like a good guy. Here's a lightsaber. Be on the Jedi High Council.
I see your potential. Let's make this happen. In a way, it's a little like, you know, it's a little Jar Jar-ish. Like it's the very opposite of Jar Jar in terms of this guy's like ability and personality. But, you know, the idea with Jar Jar in the Phantom Menace, right, is that nobody looks at that guy and thinks he could help us except Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon realizes that there's value in everybody. And that's the thing that like people miss with the Phantom Menace. Is like people complain about the midi-chlorians because like that's the point, guys. The midi-chlorians are a representation of the hubris of the Jedi. The fact that they have the freaking chosen one walks in the door and they're like, nah, we're not into this kid. Like, and let's do a test. And Qui-Gon is the one that's like, yeah, of course, Jar Jar is important. Of course, all beings are important, but especially he's going to come in handy later. Just trust me on this. And guess what? He was right. And just looking at someone and being like, you have value as a person. Let's bring you along on the ride. And, you know, that's why that movie's great.
It took him a while, though, because Qui-Gon did say that the ability to speak does not make you...
Yeah.
So it's like, even Qui-Gon a little like, it took him a while to get to Jar Jar. No, but I do like this version of Joro's Jedi Order, which is sort of like, you know what, you're a good dude, here's a lightsaber. Like, it does remind me a lot of some of the older, how Luke Skywalker tried to build his order in some ways. Although they all did have the Force. Which he just kind of like, you look cool. Want to join our team? Yeah. Let's go to Yavin, buddy. Compared to how Juro's master did, which is like, let's just find the babies, find all the Jedi babies, and start training them young kids.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That's such a again, it's a good twist on some familiar ideas. You know, it's a different vision of the Jedi Order, but it's one that feels true to what we believe Jedi are meant to be. And I thought that really worked. And yeah, Juro, I thought was a great mentor character. I do wish we had a little bit more time with him. I felt like when he died, I was like, oh, too soon. And not in the sense that like anytime a mentor character dies, you're like, too soon. I'm like, I need a little bit more mentoring from you.
Do you find it funny that he's on the council at the end as like a ghost?
I kind of love it. I think it's a little bit out there, and I'm kind of into it. I kind of like the idea that, yeah, you know what? If we have a Jedi Council in Kinberg's trilogy or any sort of post episode 9 storytelling, why not? Why not have it be Rey, Finn, Grogu, Ghost Mark Hamill, Ghost Ewan McGregor, Ghost Hayden Christensen? Like, why not? Why not? I think that would be kind of. I mean,
if you're gonna have a council and you have this seemingly new concept of, oh yeah, by the way, some Jedi can just manifest themselves as ghosts and can just hang around to give advice whenever need be, seemingly forever. Like, of course you would have, like, you know, I was always on like the ghost council. Like, I was always just like, you know, Luke was gonna like go seek, and like all the ghosts were gonna be there, and he's gonna like seek counsel from, you know, Yoda and Obi-Wan and whoever else is left. Like, I like that.
And of course, Ghost Kiadi Moody shows up to remind everybody about the droid attack on the Wookiees. It's very important.
That like, dude went to Jedi hell. I'm sorry, he went to Jedi hell.
I'll ask you guys a question. What do you just think of the geopolitic world building of the Ninth Jedi? I found it interesting of just the world building of, like, okay, there's no central government. Coruscant's abandoned, I guess.
A big thumb made a print on the crushed the Senate building, which, like, I mean, real quick, when I saw that shot in the opening little montage there, I was a little like, ooh, like,
yeah,
it's neat. Again, it's neat that they like hint at like a tie-in with the larger story without needing it to be like, you know, without locking in that this is 1054 years ABY or whatever the heck
exactly
they're going with.
I like the idea of, like, there's warlords and every planet's independent and it's kind of a free for all, and that's not necessarily a good thing either. And that's why Nawan's around. And the Jedi and the Sith are kind of both. It reminds me, and you guys brought this up. I think Chris brought this up. It reminds me a little bit of the Star Wars.
Yes,
the comic that's like, not the first draft of Lucas's Star Wars, but like maybe draft number 3 or 4. But like the fourth one, but like really, but like early concepts, and like, you know, you had Vader and Prince Valorum of the Knights of the Sith were around, and it reminds me of a lot of that. And I like the idea of, like, the Sith are around; they're just kind of now mercenaries for hire, or help, like, you know, like that Sith guy who becomes General Grievous is like helping out Nawan. And the Jedi don't seem purged just so much as, like, there's just not a lot of them anymore. There's no formal order to kind of for all of them to get around, so they're kind of just out there now doing their own thing. And I really thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that was something I dug about the original short, was like, here like the Jedi Order doesn't exist, but there are Jedi out there, and that whole meeting was the Margrave trying to, you know, gather what Jedi you can, and then that gets infiltrated by the Jedi's enemies, and then that leads to the whole reveal. And, you know, that was part of what I loved about the original short. But yeah, I definitely got that vibe as well, Joel, of like this. Yeah, it felt like it was honestly like it felt to be like a connection to those earlier drafts of the Star Wars. Yeah, I really felt that in the first episode when they go to that the planet that's ruled by the former Jedi, where he's like the governor or whatever of that planet. I thought that really felt like something that came from, or was true to those concepts, those abandoned concepts for Star Wars. And I think part of that might, whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. I think part of that might be just that so much of George's original ideas are inspired by Kurosawa movies, which are samurai movies or Japanese movies. And this is a Japanese company telling a Japanese story in the Star Wars galaxy. And so they're pulling from that same source of Japanese history and the feudal history of Japan, and you know, just getting a Star Wars vision of it. And we honestly might have ended up at that point just and finding this connection, where this connection might even just be accidental, of we were just both George and production IG were like, we're taking from Japanese inspirations, which come from Japanese history, and this is sort of what a galaxy might look like that's inspired by that, and we wound up there. But either way, I loved it because, as you guys know, I love you, Joel. You and I, we both love Star Wars history, like the production history of Star Wars, and that like early stuff I find absolutely fascinating.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fantastic stuff. Anything else? I mean, we've touched on some of the characters. We've touched on Juro. We've mentioned the minor characters. We've talked about Kara, who I don't know if we've given enough kudos to Kara. I think that like that character just lights up the screen whenever she's on it. She's such a
adorable.
Yeah, a great character to follow. They really both the animation and again the performance. I'm assuming we all watched this in English.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kimiko Glenn, who did the English version of it, she was absolutely fantastic and really brought a lot of life to that character and made her really fun to follow for all 8 episodes, plus the other 2 shorts.
She's adorable, Kara. I mean, I love like even in episode, maybe it's 2 or 3, where she just like Juro's trying to get the miners together, and then she just like stands up. It's like, oh, help us, like we got to do it. Like I learned that war can't. Well, I used to think war would never touch me until they took my father. Please help us. And she just kind of go like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like she's just so sweet until she goes psycho, and that's why I love her even more. What she's saying, like she's got that fiery anger in her, as well, and it's just like she just has this like adorableness to her. I guess one character though we haven't talked a lot about though, and he's kind of important, but we never talked much about Jima himself, her father.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of interesting. There's one thing I feel like it got cut, or maybe, this is another thing you do season 2. They don't explain where Kara comes from. Like all they say is he killed the master, and then he comes to Juro and he had a baby. I thought there was gonna be like a connection there or something, or it's like somebody was like a secret mom, and it's like, okay, he just had a baby now. I thought it would be like adopted or something. It's like maybe, I don't know.
I would sort of love. I would love it. If we get a season 2, if it kind of follows the pattern of the How to Train Your Dragon movies.
Oh, that'd be great.
Like, in the second one when Jay Baruchel, the main Viking, when he meets his mom, and she's been she was absent from the story in the first part in the first movie, and kind of comes into the second one and becomes a big part of it. And I think if we get a season 2, it is a little bit funny of like just suddenly she's there. There's no mention of a mom or any any other character that Jima doesn't seem to have any sort of romantic or even just physical connection with someone who could with another character like that. So it does sort of feel like maybe that's something that's been left intentionally vague, or was just left vague out of convenience, that could turn into something else if this story is to continue, which it absolutely should.
Oh yeah, and I love the mystery behind why he kills the master. I think it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of say like he's kind of a prequel Jedi in the sense that like, he's taking the babies, obviously, and going more traditional. I think it's almost like prequel Jedi to almost an extreme. Because like, who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe a few of them did by accident. But like, no one on the council was putting people in carbonite, world leaders in carbonite. Although they wanted to maybe have done, they might have done that with Palpatine. Which to be fair, that's Palpatine. But Palpatine's always the extreme of everything. But
just to build off what you're saying there, Joel, like in Acolyte, there's that great scene with Vernestra and the senator, and the senator's like, what happens when one of you loses it? You guys say you're religious, but you're actually seeking power. He speaks a lot of truths to the to Vernestra, and I think, in his mind, he's probably not imagining someone with a cloak and a helmet and taking over the Senate that way. He's probably imagining something that's a lot closer to what Jima's master is doing in the show of building up power and being like a corrupt Jedi. And I don't mean like corrupt in the sense of like dark and light. I mean like he's doing bad things to elevate his own power within the galaxy and being more important as the trading minister or whatever he is. Like he's working, it's like kind of more House of Cards than it is Star Wars, typical Star Wars mythology or storytelling. And I like that of like, here is a Jedi who's like, I have all this power. How can I use it to my benefit? I'm not necessarily trying to be emperor of the universe, but being someone who has a lot of wealth and a lot of power, a lot of soft power in the politics of the galaxy, I think is really, really interesting. And again, it's a really cool concept for someone to pick up on and do more with, because we only got it hinted at in these, but it definitely feels like that's something else that's got a lot of potential.
And it also begs the question, though, and I think it's a good one. How much should the Jedi integrate themselves into society, and also what is their role in a stateless galaxy, right? Like the galaxy is in anarchy, and as the queen lady person, I forget her name, lady of the planet, the leader, she's like, trade wasn't good. There's no galactic government, so all these planets that could trade with each other and profit and benefit. There's nothing to cement them. There's no Senate. There's no galactic government. There's no tariffs. There's no taxes. Whatever. There's no fleet to protect from pirates. So it's like everyone's kind of on their own, and it's not going to be good for everybody. Like you do kind of need you need some integration. You do need a little bit of free trade across the board for everybody.
I love this scene where Nawan's like, we're gonna have Liberation Day. We're gonna put tariffs on all these other planets. They've been really unfair to us.
I am going to build a giant lightsaber. It's gonna be huge. No one's ever gonna build another lightsaber like this.
But it is interesting because I can see where I forget what the Jedi Master's name was. I'm terrible with names this time. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
But I can see where at first this did start out as coming from a good place. Like, yeah, I'm a Jedi. I got the prestige. I can help. I can bring the trade together, and then But again, it is that slippery slope where he did slip and get corrupt. It's like, ooh, I get a bribe. I kind of like this, and it's sort of like if there's a second season, where should Kara's Jedi fall on it? Because they shouldn't just stand back. It's like, oh well, anarchy. We're not gonna do anything. Just gonna sit back and watch everybody suffer. But at the same time, it's you gotta be careful how much you get into the weeds of the politics, because again, that's the Clone Wars. On the one hand, the Jedi, I think the Jedi just doing nothing and sitting back and letting the Republican separatists tear each other apart, that wouldn't be good, because what? We're just gonna let people suffer and die, and millions, get bombarded by both sides or by Grievous or whoever, right? Yeah, they're not gonna do that. But again, as Palpatine checkmated them into getting the clone army, Palpatine's no, I'm gonna integrate you more into the government so then I can purge you later. So it's they're gonna have to, if there's a season 2, they're gonna have to balance getting involved, but not becoming the mayor or the king or the emperor or president. So that, I think that was an interesting look at the past Jedi as well, and kind of Jima, why he did what he did.
Yeah. It was really, again, I thought the backstory for Nawan and the Jedi, I thought that was really interesting and a good bit of world building that plays off of things that we know and things that we understand, but puts a unique twist on it. I thought that was really good. All right, I think we've had a good and thorough discussion here. So let's give some final thoughts on this. We won't do scores because it's hard to score an entire season. But let's give some final thoughts on I'm gonna call it season 1 of Star Wars Visions presents The Ninth Jedi, in the hopes that we one day get to talk about season 2. Ben, start us off. Final thoughts on Ninth Jedi season 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really did enjoy this season, this first season. I think it really expanded the universe of the Ninth Jedi. Whether you consider this to be officially canon as part of the Star Wars universe or something that's just another offshoot, Visions universe. Either way, I think it expanded Star Wars. I think it did really well to bring a lot of new ideas, a lot of new concepts to Star Wars. Yeah, obviously, there was a lot of riffing. There was a lot of things like giant super weapon, and protagonist that deals with their dark side, that loses their mentor and then fights the main bad guy and turns them seemingly from their wicked ways. You can this stuff writes itself. Okay. The parallels are there, but I think they're not accidents. Like, the creators intended every one of them. I think it's their way of just like saying, hey, this is Star Wars. This is our own take on Star Wars, but we're giving it to you in a new and interesting package. And I think Ninth Jedi has continued to prove to be just a really fun little outing and a way to explore something completely different that we've never seen in Star Wars before. I think from the designs to the characters, very well said. I think the only really downside to it is just would like to see it further expanded. I think it's like I said last week, it's nice to see some actually like good dialogue between seemingly the fans and the production teams, and like fans going like, hey, we like this, and them saying, hey, we'll do more of this. So I hope that maybe we'll get more Star Wars Vision shorts and things. Yes, I would love to see more of the duel, because I like that one too. But I think this is a very lucrative storyline that I think could easily be like, if this is it, this is great, but also you could do a lot more with this too. So,
Joel, final thoughts for Ninth Jedi.
I conclude with Ben. If this is it, this was great. If they do more, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It was #1 on Disney Plus for a couple of weeks, so that was good, nice.
There you go. Are you listening, Josh? Are you listening?
I mean, I do think they have said about more Visions Presents, whether that means season 2 or other Visions, that'd be nice as well. Again, I think the duel would be a great one to kind of continue on as they're the next one. I don't need every Visions thing expanded, because some of them could just be, they're anime and set in the classic Star Wars. But Ninth Jedi was amazing. Again, I think this is the show you show people if you want to rebuttal the Gray Jedi fan theory, which I am one of my big things about it. I love Cara. She's amazing. I love her arc. I love the animation. I love the way it makes it feel like a classic Star Wars, but with a little bit of a twist, and even like going back to classic conceptual Star Wars as well. So overall, highly recommend it if you love anime and if you love Star Wars. A bajillion out of 10. There we go.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment that I hope there's more. This show was a lot of fun. The one speed wobble for me was at the end of episode 2 when they had the Starkiller base weapon essentially. And I was like, uh-oh, are we gonna just be doing that? And that was coming off of the droid control ship.
I'll say this, Dom. I'll say this. I love how it's animated, so I thought that was cool. So I wasn't as bothered because, okay, this at least looks cool and different.
It did look cool. I definitely agree with that. But then they got things that they won me over again with what followed. And as we said, I think Cara is a great character. Cara is a great character. That's what I'm trying to say. And the Margrave, I think he's a terrific Star Wars mentor. I would have liked to have spent some more time with the other Jedi characters. I thought they were pretty interesting, but again, that's something for a season 2. Jima's a good sort of like, he's a mentor character, but there's a little bit more to it. There's a little questions about his backstory, and Nawan was a pretty entertaining villain. So I was very happy with this show, and I hope that there is more Star Wars Visions Presents, whether it is Ninth Jedi or anything else. I will just quickly plug, last fall, back in November, I wrote on my Substack about 5 other Visions shorts that I think should get a Star Wars. They should get the full series treatment. And so I will quickly plug that if people want to go back and read it, because I think there's so much rich potential here for more good stories just like this one. All right. we got a few minutes here, so let's look back.
I can go all night. I can go.
Yeah, but let's look back. Ben, whence last we talked, you were at Rebel Scum Con with, among others, Chris and Jeffrey White and Jordan Schaefer and Hannah Raeside and many other attendees at Rebel Scum Con. Tell us a little bit about it. This was your first time being at Rebel Scum Con. Did it live up to the hype that you were feeling last Thursday when we spoke on the pod?
Yeah, I mean, it really did, like, full on. Like, I think, not to I try not to overstate things. I also just, like, for you guys' sake, since you didn't go, I don't want to be like, it was the best time ever, I wish you were there. I'm just like, I do, like,
be honest. If it was the best time ever, just tell us. We can take it. Okay. We can take it, Joel.
I'm gonna say all this with the hope that two of you and everyone listening that didn't go this year will go, and in the next few years, you will make the trip to things, because I think it really was, I think, one of the better, or maybe even one of the best convention experiences that I've had. Now, there's a few different factors for this. Now, was it perfect? By no means was it perfect. Rebel Scum Con had some growing pains. Specifically, Friday, when it was everyone was there, even more so than the previous day, and it was basically shoulder to shoulder, people everywhere, in a pretty small footprint of a convention center. And just, mayhem. And maybe I'm overstating it. It wasn't that bad, but like, it was definitely like, okay, there is the main showroom, but also in the hallway, which if you've been to a lot of cons, you know that usually the hallways are open. No, there was other stuff in the hallways. Like the con was packed out, and it's in this, relatively small, compared to maybe a Celebration, relatively small con center connected to the Embassy Suites in Frisco, Texas, and which was very nice for anyone that was going there. I know a lot of the celebrities were going there. I know, I spoke with, I kind of heard through the grapevine through some of the organizers that, like, that was a big draw for a lot of the celebrities to, like, have a place where you just go and you just walk down the hallway, you stay in your room, go down, and you're in the con center. It was small. There wasn't a lot of food options. There was one drink stand that I found on, like, the second day. Someone showed it to me. I didn't know it was there. And, yes, space was light, but the overall vibe was really nice. And it really kind of, like, felt like, if you've been to Celebration, it felt like that. It felt like that, just got a little bit of a smaller scale. And I was talking to some people, because as naturally as it comes, since we all left Rebel Scum Con, all the people that were there are talking in group chats again, and we're, like, going back and forth and talking about, like, what was good, what was bad, and like, my whole thing, and I think I was talking to Chad about this, is like, okay, if you want announcements, like, we're anticipating D23 right now. There's coming. There's Ahsoka stuff happening. Maybe there's a Starfighter trailer happening. Who knows? Anything can happen. If you want big announcements, if you want trailers, if you want, like, the cast coming out on stage of the new movie and blah, 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 Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, all these heavyweights coming out on stage to announce something huge, you're always the Celebration D23, they have the market cornered on that. They're always going to be the place for that. But if you just want to go to a con and you just want to hang out with your friends, you just want to do some cosplay, you want to see some cosplay, you want to do autographs, you want to see some of the actors from past projects on stage, you want to meet them in person, you can do that at Rebel Scum Con, and it's actually easier to do. And, like, from a content creator perspective, which is I am coming at this from, like, it was a thing where it's just like, there was less news to cover. There wasn't all kinds of stuff happening. It was just like, we're just kind of chilling here. We're just kind of doing the con thing. And it was really fun. And huge shout out to, we had a bunch of people that actually managed to come down, had some local people. Our good friend Jesse Bennett came down. Literally it was like the night before. We're in the group chat and Jesse's like, wait, that's happening this weekend, I'll come down. He drove 4 hours from Oklahoma to come do the thing. Our good buddy Zach and his wife Edna came and for the day on Saturday, and that was a lot of fun, and getting to see them. And like I said, everyone else was there too on Saturday. But I could go on all day, literally. And like my memory of everything is fuzzy. My memory, of course, is perfect. I can remember everything. So, if I say anything off kilter, it's because it's your fault. But I think honestly, Rebel Scum I'm really looking forward to next year. I don't know if I'll get to go, but I'm curious where to see it goes, because they already announced they're doing it in a new venue. Apparently it could be removing to July, maybe. I don't know. That's not confirmed. But it definitely looks like they have met the demand, and the people that are running the show are really trying hard to, fix the problems that are there and meet the demand. And we'll see next year what it turns out to be. But yeah, 2 thumbs up, Rebel Scum Con.
Nice. That sounds fantastic. It looked like such a fun time from all the pictures and videos and stories that everyone was sharing. It looked like it was a great experience. And yeah, it looked like it captured that part of celebration of everybody just being there together. With celebration, the announcements get all the attention, but you can easily forget that like some of the best moments are not in a panel room. They're just everybody together wherever you are. And like my favorite day of celebration almost always is the day before, when everybody is arriving and everybody is seeing each other again for the first time. I think back to the 2022 celebration, when we were all gathering in that hotel to get our vaccine wristbands and everything, and just everybody. So there was like a real like central thing of like everybody had to go to this place, and so it was like turn your head, see a friend, and it was such a wonderful thing. And that's the impression that I got from everything that all of you guys posted from that show. It looked like such a fun time, and I hope to go again someday, perhaps say in 2029. Did you, Ben? Yeah. And this is very important to me. Did you witness the running of the Radas?
I am ashamed to say, I completely missed I think it's called the rolling of the Rotas, which is basically just a bunch of people. Actually, to take this a step back here, I witnessed the introduction of the first Rota the Hutt. So, a little backstory here. On Friday, you had the panel from Blasters to Beskar, the stunts behind the Mandoverse. It featured Lateef Crowder, JJ Danshaw, Richard Cetrone, Matt Ox Leonard, Donald Mills, Dorian King, and Paul Darnell. They're all like, you obviously you at least everyone should at least recognize Lateef Crowder as like one of the main Mandalorian stunt doubles. But like, you had the stunt double for the stand-in, the physical actor for Zeb Orrelios and Mandalorian Grogu, and then a bunch of others, the Cad Bane guy, all those guys. That was a panel that was hosted by our very good friend Hannah Raeside and Carly King. And that was a great panel. They did a wonderful job with that. But during that panel, towards the end, and I found out from Hannah later that they had no idea this was going to happen. They knew something was going to happen at the end of the panel, but there's rumbles and there's stuff happening. We keep hearing something happening at the back of the room. We turn around and there is a entourage of Rebel Legion people coming into the room, and one of them is dressed like a Rota the Hutt, and they make their way up, and they were going to induct Richard Cetrone, who was the body of Rhoda, the stuntman for Rhoda on the set. They inducted him as an honorary member of the Rebel Legion.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So that was the first one. And there's video and pictures of that happening because it was very hilarious. And then Hannah had the great one-liner. I hope this is on video somewhere. She said, I didn't realize I would get this emotional over a inflatable Jabba. And it was like a very touching moment. But that was the beginning of it. And then I didn't get there till late. I think it was on Sunday when it blew up. It blew up the internet with the rolling of the Rhoda Huts, because they had already had a one-way out going. They already had a Narkina 5 prisoners. They had already done a run through. In fact, I was standing on the floor. I'm just like, I hear one way out. I'm like, oh God, here we go. I just ran as fast as I could over to where they were running so I could get some video of them and post it. And that was a whole lot of fun. So now apparently rolling of the Rhodas is a thing now. Rebel Scum Con has contributed something to the overall lexicon of Star Wars conventions and conventions overall, because now this is a thing that's happening. Apparently, they're already planning a rolling of the Rhodas at Dragon Con.
Yes.
This week or next week. So that's happening.
That's fantastic. I love anytime you get one of those like parades of people all wearing the same costume. It started with the Wilro hoods and then expanded to the one-way outs, and now to have there's just something so funny about the way those costumes move. And everybody who was in those shouting like, I'm not my father, I'm my own man. Like, it was just incredible. I will say just about the one-way out. I love the one-way out. I think that's so terrific. Like, that's such a doable costume, and it makes it so accessible for everybody to participate in it. I will say the running of the one-way out has just a little bit of an extra bite and punch to it when it's actually at Celebration, because it's at like a Disney sanctioned event. And it's like a little bit like, Disney, this show that you've made and produced has inspired a lot of people, and your actions might cause them to view there is only one way out. And so I love anytime that happens. I feel like maybe it probably doesn't make Disney people uncomfortable, but
I don't care.
It's a little bit funnier happening at a sanctioned event like that. But it's still great to see wherever it happens, and the rolling of the Radas is terrific. That's so funny.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, I mean, great. And there was some great panels, like, and this con kind of reminded me of just like, you need to go, like, something I always tell myself when I go to Celebration, I'm like, you need to go to the quote unquote smaller panels, the fan panels or whatever else. And like, technically speaking, like, all of the panels at Rebel Scum Con would be considered small compared to something you would see at a Celebration. But for Rebel Scum Con, these were the big panels. Like, you had a Seekell trilogy panel with John Boyega, which was a lot of fun. John was just hamming it up. He was just having the best time, and we were having a great time along with him. Bryce Dallas Howard had a panel, which was great. The aforementioned stunt doubles panel, and and then going forward with that, Skywalking Through Neverland hosted a Force Feud, which is basically Star Wars Family Feud round, and it was amazing. Like, they're like, if you get a chance, like, they're gonna post the video, I believe.
I'm so excited,
and you have to watch this, because I don't know, like, I thought Richard was gonna pass out. Like, the man was running around like a madman the entire time. And like, I think I got one answer right, because he would just like go to the panel, and then he would just run around the room going, yes, Ben, yes. He would just get the answers, and everyone is just going crazy. And there was some crazy ones. The one that was on when we first arrived, which, just for the record, in a small room that was standing room only to get into this thing. I stood at the door for a long time just to get in to actually see this thing. Everyone wanted to get in on the Force Feud. But the one answer was, what happened after Dedra and Cyril said, turn out the lights? And the answers might surprise you.
Ben, I have the answers here.
Oh, okay. Well, hit them.
So the least suggested answer, with only 5 respondents was they have cereal. How wholesome. With 10 people submitting their answer, he cries. So it just turns into Cyril crying.
He would, though. He would.
Number 15, they just go to sleep. They just go to sleep. I got 15 votes. 20 votes for Cyril's mom turns the lights back on, which is top tier. And I will leave the first two to people's imaginations, or they can go see the picture on the Star Wars Underworld social medias. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And the only other panel I will mention, because I could literally go on all night, and then there's videos and all kinds of stuff, but there's plenty of content, a lot of video. Apparently the official Rebel Scum people actually I think recorded most, if not all, the panels. So that is good to hear. Hopefully they'll be releasing those soon. But like, speaking of smaller panels, like, you know, the other panel that Hannah hosted was the hairstyling in the Mandoverse, which was with the hairstylist for, I believe it was Mandalorian and Ahsoka. She did a bunch of stuff. Maria Sandoval, and she was amazing. Like, it was basically like the panel just turned into a one-on-one interview between Hannah and her, and it was great. And there was one clip, I think Hannah's posted it, where we all learned something. We all learned something about hairstyling, and I'm not sure we wanted to learn it, but we learned it. So go check Hannah's social media.
What did we learn? Like, hint at it. Tease us. What did we learn?
We learned the term for hair that is not on your head or even anywhere on your head. That's something down in the underworld portion of your body.
Okay. All right. On that note, I think I don't think we're gonna find a better
entertainment, isn't it, folks?
I don't think we're gonna find a better button than that to begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back in about 7 days' time to continue talking about D23 and whatever we learned there, as well as whatever other Star Wars news there may be, including some of the things that we didn't get to this week, like a teeny weeny tiny little tease hint update thingy about Simon Kinberg's trilogy, a Star Wars and Marvel crossover that for some reason is happening, and some other things. But we'll have that in a future week, and we'll of course continue to talk about everything else that's going on in Star Wars. And I'm sure we're not done talking about the Ninth Jedi either. So do join us again Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel if you want to listen live, or on your podcast apps, or on YouTube after the fact. Joel, thank you so much for being on with us. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find Ion Cannon and everything else that you're doing?
Yes, you can find Ion Cannon on this channel, YouTube channel. We are Mondays from 6 p.m. Pacific, or start at 9 p.m. Eastern live. We are also going to talk about Ninth Jedi next week, and this week we talked about whether or not the Jedi Order that Rey's going to build should take influence from the Protestant Reformation. So that's the kind of stuff we talk about on our show. You can follow me. I know. You can follow me at JID20234 on Blue Sky, JID20234 on Blue Sky. I also help run the Star Wars Underworld, the Blue Sky, and the Facebook. And we have the Ion Cannon Blue Sky and the Facebook. So, we don't have Facebook, we have Blue Sky. So follow us there, and of course, check out the Discord that I run.
All right. Thank you very much, Joel. Everybody, do make sure you are listening to Ion Cannon. It's a great discussion. Ben, thank you as always for hosting. Anything else you want to say on the way out?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot something very crucial. So on Friday, I keep confusing Fridays. If I said Friday, I meant Saturday. This is how my brain works. It's been doing this the whole time. But on Saturday of the con, we recorded what quite possibly could be the most haphazard, worst recording of a podcast I've ever produced. But it actually was pretty good. Actually, it ended up being pretty good. The video was not great because I found out my new laptop doesn't do good in poor lighting. So you can watch that if you want to. I don't know why you would, but you can listen to it. I will be posting the audio from that, the cleaned up audio from that, very, very soon. And it was just kind of like a little debrief. We kind of gave all of our likes and gripes about the con and all the things. It was a nice little discussion. We had Zach and Chris and Jesse and Jordan and Jeff. Jeff was like literally staying in the same hotel. We were con buddies the entire time. I don't know how I could forget Jeff. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So definitely look forward to that. It was going to be like a 3-hour show. Ended up being 45 minutes. So what can you do?
Hey, 3 hours, 45 minutes. As long as it's fun. That's the point. So yeah, everybody do check that out. It is available now on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel, and like Ben said, should be available in audio format at some point soon. I don't have anything to plug this week, so I'll just plug the Star Wars Underworld again. Make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. And if you are listening or watching in a form on a platform that lets you leave a review or a rating, please do that. We really appreciate those, especially the 5-star ones. In between shows, if you like what we're doing, you want to support us financially, you can become a channel member. We really do appreciate that. And keep the conversation going in the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. If you want to talk about Ninth Jedi, Ahsoka Season 2, Rebel Scum Con, or anything else that we may have touched on this week, maybe you have a strong opinion on what Yoda meant when he said, "Forever will it dominate your destiny." You should share that in the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. And again, make sure you are following at the SWU on all the various social medias to see everything that Ben and Joel are posting. And of course, again, check out the other programming on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and the Tractor Beam. I think there's Rebel Scum related content on almost all of those, if I'm not mistaken. So do check that out. All right. That is it. We will be back in 7 days' time for more Star Wars discussions. But until then, for Ben and Joel and Chris and Hannah, who aren't here, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.